Well bro, we finally meet again with Super Mario Bros. 3, except this time on the Super Nintendo visuals, or graphics to be more specific.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I am the one and only Mighty the Armadillo here.
And I am Ray, the Flying Squirrel here. We are from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario All-Stars, aka Super Mario Collection, for both the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom, as well as the Nintendo Wii, and finally the Nintendo Switch due to the phones of the online services and what have you. So, yeah, last time we've essentially did somehow manage to complete it, the entire Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA, by experiencing not only World 5, but also World 6 and World 7 as well. And we somehow taken down Wart as well, so relatively speaking, I think we did have a pretty good time on it so far. So now we're going to be hit on to the final game of this entire compilation of Super Mario All-Stars, and because of that, today for this video is that we're about to get started with the fourth and the final game in Super Mario All-Stars, and that's what appears to be Super Mario Bros. 3. Many people consider this to be one of the best 2D Mario games of all time, next to Super Mario World, which I honestly agree with this, especially because obviously with all that introduction to, you know what I mean, the world map, Koopalings, as well as some cool power-ups, and you probably name the rest of it though, especially if you're ever following with our original NES version of the game, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So either way, now here's the biggest differences this time with this version compared to the NES version of this particular Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. 3. Is that I'm actually going to be taking control of Mario this time, and then for Mighty, he's now going to be taking control of Luigi this time for the sake of the two-player run-through of Super Mario Bros. 3. Because obviously we've already done the NES version of Super Mario Bros. 3, like I actually take control of Luigi, whilst meanwhile for Mighty, he takes control of Mario. So we figure in this version in particular, we might also do a bit of a switcheroo to change things up a bit. So for instance, I'm actually going to be playing as Mario on level 1-1, so relatively speaking I can able to actually fly like a actual raccoon. Like, relatively speaking, we can able to just utilize the P meter until we're able to actually get our flight meter going. So either way though, now of course the structure remains the same, so as a result we still need to able to go and take turns basically, depending on what level we've completed or not. So either way, there's my first card. So in some cases though, I've got myself my glorious Starman card. So of course, imagine if I get 3 of the exactly the same kind, that allows me to able to get me 5 lives. So I'm really hoping that'll be the case for this version right here. So, it's all depending on the timing on the jump and stuff like that. So,
now of course it's my turn to take control of Luigi, so...
And also I just realized is that the actual sprite work on Luigi in Super Mario Bros. 3 is that it feels a lot more different this time, because as opposed to the phones within the NES version, that it's basically like a recolored version of Mario, except the biggest difference is now on the Super Nintendo version, next to the Game Boy Advance version, is that, well, Luigi looks a lot more accurate to its, well, you know what I'm saying. So either way though. So yeah, a few things we want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that, well, today's date is of course the 21st of March today, in this case in 2023 today, and guess what, Mighty, we've only just got about 2 weeks left, or technically almost 2 weeks left, until the Super Mario Bros. Movie is going to be releasing. So, very hyped about this, especially concerning about the fact that, well, everyone else has been waiting for this as well, especially after that massive disappointment of the 1993 film, because my god, looking back in it right now, for the 1993 film, my god, it pales in comparison to the films of the superior counterpart, which appears to be, you know, the animated version. So, but either way though, in terms of what I was predicting for the reviews of the film, I would say it'll be super great, especially concerning about the fact that, well, it's kind of hard to predict right now, just because, as I said before, we've only just got about, you know, 2 weeks left until the film finally comes out on the big screen for not only in the United States of America, but also the UK, along with any other regions as well. So either way though. And on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact, remember what Maxi has already mentioned about this? Ever since in Journey Forms within the Piglet's Big Game Let's Play, that it's been like, you know, 8 years ago since when Mario Party 10 first came out on the Wii U, on the America and the UK versions.
Well, mind you about the fact that the Japanese version came out first, likely in the 12th of March.
Yeah, I know that, especially concerning about the fact that, you know, despite how that game turns out to be the most lackluster console Mario Party games nowadays, especially it's bad enough about the fact that this is the only console Mario Party game that does not feature the minigame announcer, which I've got no words to say about it, because it was originally going to be on here, but thanks to the phones of that particular E3 2014 or something like that. Mind you, it's basically the reused minigame announcer for not only for Mario Party 9, but also Island Tour as well. So either way though, because I just have no idea why they somehow managed able to get rid of that, you know, minigame announcer, because it would be great, but unfortunately though, it doesn't seem to happen sadly, so oh well, no big deal, but at least we still got ourselves our superior Mario Party Superstars after all, so either way though, it's a shame that game does not receive any brand new updates or DLC for that matter though, because either way though, that's the perfect example of why we haven't gone back into Mario Party Superstars for some time now, especially concerning about the fact that, well, we just moved on to other Nintendo Switch stuff, you know?
And I was literally so close to get that Starman card.
Yeah, no, especially you really desperately want to go after some more extra lives, you know? Especially that I think I'm also trying to grab one in that particular slot machine down below. So either way, I'm also able to go ahead and do that. Line up the pictures and get a prize. You only get one try. So yeah, that's what I was going to be thinking about it anyway. So, of course, the visuals do look a lot more nicer this time around compared to the forms of how it does it on the NES version. One thing I should probably also realize is that whenever you go into a level, it now actually says Mario Start or Luigi Start, depending on what specific characters you'll be playing as. So either way though, it kind of does the same thing for the Game Boy Advance version as well, mind you with the forms of the screen crunch included. So either way though, that might be saying something, so anyway, so good thing I've managed to avoid that dry bones right here. So now we go on to the spiked ceiling that I do need to watch out for. Oh, dang it! Oh, I somewhat didn't hesitate. Ah, there's my first death right here, so I'm guessing for you, Mighty, you might be the only one managed able to complete the first tower level.
And by the way, similar to the forms of how it does it on the NES version of the game, basically though it's about the fact that, well, there's no checkpoints, so we have to go through most of those levels without, you know, messing up and all that stuff, to be expected, so.
And on top of all that stuff though, it's about the fact that, well, usually kind of think about it, that, I think there's still a way that you can able to actually still play the Mario Brothers portion of the game by simply only access the 2-player game, because unlike any forms of how it does it on the Game Boy Advance version, I believe it doesn't happen. So instead, I'm pretty sure you're able to actually just share lives to each other, I'm pretty sure, which it kind of has exactly the same feature as in Super Mario World or something like this. But either way though, we'll talk more details onto that though whenever we get to the Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario Bros. 3 in the future. So either way, now of course, just like in forms of how it does it in not only Super Mario Bros. But also Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels and Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA, the good news about Super Mario Bros. 3 on the All-Stars version of the game, that you do able to have your save feature. So every time if you do manage to decide to take a break, basically though, you can simply just press pause and then you simply select save and continue. That way you can able to continue where you left off. Although keep in mind, one thing I totally forgot to mention about is that if you go back into your resume point after saving and continue and stuff like that, or saving and quit, basically your lives will be reset. So in some cases though, that was before when the 3D games usually becomes a thing when it comes to likely resetting your life system, specifically Super Mario 64, Super Mario 64 DS, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy 2, whilst thankfully in 3D Land and 3D World, managed to fix that problem, and same applies to the forms of, in a Kirby series of games as well. Like, for instance, about the fact that I think in Kirby's Adventure, does manage to have a save file system, and then if you manage to take a break, and then if you come back into that game, well, basically your lives will be reset, and that can be also applied onto modern Kirby games as well. Well, to be more specifically, Kirby's Return to Dreamland and Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, that basically though you able to actually just to get like 7 lives every time whenever you do manage to able to get back into the game, whilst every nowadays since Kirby Star Allies, and especially noticeable with I would say Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, thankfully, your lives does not reset at all, especially concerning about the fact that despite it's actually incredibly easy to farm some more extra lives with those games nowadays, but either way though, that might be saying something. So, unfortunately for me and Mighty, we didn't seem to able to get the exact matching cards after all, but maybe until whenever we get to the point until the second world or something like that, because let's face it though, the first world is actually very simple and easy, just because, you know, just get used to with the main mechanics of the game, especially with these power-ups in mind, and you probably named the idea. So I think I might as well bring out my Super Leaf with me to take on the first Hammer Bro encounter in a world map. So either way, oh, nice. Nice ownage for that particular raccoon tail. That way, I can get myself my glorious Starman. So relatively speaking though, despite the invincibility Starman doesn't last a bit longer than I was expecting because, well, unlike in Super Mario Bros. 1 and Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and Super Mario Bros. 2, managed to be able to last for a little bit longer. So, anyway, so this is where we come across into a specific change compared to the NES version, compared to the Super Nintendo version of Super Mario Bros. 3, is that certain transformations are a little bit different, because I'm presuming to you, this particular enemy right there looks very similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA, which kind of thing about it though, because they actually just somehow brought over certain familiar transformations to the other Mario games, so I can assure you, in the NES version, that the king just turned into a dog, and then on the Super Nintendo version, he somehow turned into that snake-like enemy, based off from Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA. So yeah, pretty cool touch, I might add, which also say applies to the forms of in the Game Boy Advance version as well. Yeah, because I can assure you that the Game Boy Advance version does manage to heavily borrow some of these exactly the same visual presentation as in the Super Nintendo version, except, you know, that the Game Boy Advance version does utilize the screen crunch for that particular resolution, so obviously Mighty is going to be taking on the first Koopaling in Super Mario Bros. 3, and that's what appears to be Larry Koopa. Pretty easy and self-explanatory as far as for his proceeding goes, and that pretty much does it for World 1. So again, World 1 is actually very simple and sweet, and also on top of that, super duper easy when it comes to completing that particular world. And then, just like in the forms of how it does it on the NES version of the game, basically though, you get yourselves a freebie item thanks to Princess Toadstool, who managed to give you a letter. So in some cases, I think you get yourselves a P-Wing, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, similar to the forms of how it does it on the NES version for sure. But this time around though, we can now able to hear that particular Princess Toadstool jingle in the background, as opposed to that none of those sound effects on the NES version, so yeah, pretty awesome for my book. Now let's move on to World 2, which takes place in a desert. Now, despite the fact that we did somehow miss out on quite a few secrets in World 1, mainly because, well, similar to the forms of how it does on most of those other games in Super Mario All-Stars, I don't think we can probably go for Warp Zone system or anything else like that, but I will tell you exactly how you're supposed to be able to get those 2 Warp Whistles in World 1. One of them is actually in World 1-3, and another one was actually in World 1 Tower level, so relatively speaking, that's all I can really say about this. And there's also technically the 3rd Warp Whistle, but that was generally in World 2, but basically in order to able to get it though, is that you need to able to get yourselves the actual hammer as the item, which you can't really use in the actual levels themselves. You have to use it on the actual world map to able to actually break certain rocks, to able to allow you to able to actually access to other areas of the world map. And that's basically how this goes, basically. But again, I think we should probably save that conversation, and maybe potentially we'll be able to show that off once we get to the Game Boy Advance version of the game, until God knows when. Because, either way though, because, well, it's been about, 5 days ago since we've actually last played this game of Super Mario All-Stars after completing Super Mario Bros. 2. So, relatively speaking, though, that's as far as I can usually try to muster, so... Oh, sweet, I got myself my glorious fire flower. That'll add up to my item inventory, so that'll be cool for my part. And now we can probably hit on to the next level, but before I do that, let me go ahead and get myself some more lives, just to ensure about the fact that despite I stumbled across for that particular unexpected death from the likes of the forms of World 1 Tower, because I think my jumps are a bit too high for my liking, so... But there we go, we got myself, or actually I've got myself, rather, 3 lives. So that'll lead me up to 10 lives. So, how's that for that part? Oh, and also another thing I would like to mention about this as well, I guess, is that, well, unfortunately though, is about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, certain films will be delisted onto the forms of Netflix once again, and those are Shrek the Third, and also Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, Rise of the Guardians, and also Shrek Forever After, and even Scary Movie, I think it says Scary Movie, the first one if I recall correctly, because it came out in, I would say in 2000, and I think there's one which is Mr. Bean's Holiday. So relatively speaking though, unfortunately those films on Netflix will be delisted until, well, some of them from the likes of the 31st of March, like seriously. Why is it always the 31st of March? Like, this is like Super Mario 3D All-Stars all over again when it comes to delisting the game digitally and physical runs for its sealed copies. And on top of that, you know, with Super Mario Bros. 35 is now being no longer functioning, and on top of that, relatively speaking, oh, do you even remember that about the fact that, I do know for one thing that Mighty did somehow told me, that there was that one point that in 2021, that in April Fool's Day, they somehow managed to able to, like, you know, in the Mario Wikipedia page, that basically though, that they did the April Fool's thing, like basically they just somehow no longer has Mario's name on here. It keeps on thinking about the fact that with Mario's death, for the likes of the forms of his 35th anniversary special or something, but either way though, I honestly have no idea why I say things like that. So it looks like Mighty did somehow take down the another tower, so kudos to good old Mighty, the armadillo. So in some cases, now it's my turn to take on level 3. And this is where we get introduced into ourselves, these fire snakes. So, but either way, let's get back into that topic about the forms of, you know, films will be delisted on Netflix. So, when it comes to the films of the 31st of March, I think those films are, let's just say Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, and also Rise of the Guardians, and there's also Scary Movie, and Mr. Bean's Holiday, that those films will be delisted on Netflix until the 31st of March. Now, unlike the other two films, which are both Shrek related, and those are Shrek the Third, which is still is my least favorite films in terms of the Shrek franchise, and there's also Shrek Forever After, and I think those films will be delisted until the 11th of April, which is about 6 days after the release of the Super Mario Bros. Movie on the big screen. So either way though, that might be saying something, I suppose. Well, relatively speaking, despite the fact that I found, you know, the fourth film is okay, but nothing compared to the forms of how it does it on the third film. Like, God, the third film honestly kind of blows. Same applies to the forms of that god-awful Shark Tale, which, God, don't even bring me that up. So either way, now it's my turn to take on, let's just say, a sand level that features a devastating angry sun. But of course, nothing matters anyway for me though, because I can just simply beat the level very easily. Assuming, of course, if I was trying to get myself my third and final Starman card if it's possible for my liking, and despite the fact that I've lost my Raccoon suit, so that really kind of stinks. And look at that, I've got myself 5 lives! Huzzah! Alright, so now I don't need to worry about getting the game over anytime soon, so well, technically, there is a method that you can technically get yourself infinite lives in this game, but unfortunately that I found is a little bit difficult to execute it, unlike in Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, mind you. Oh, really? Do you have to give me mushrooms every time when I go into toad houses? Like, this is rigged. Ugh, whatever. We'll just get into, like, I don't know, level 4. And I think I'm also tackle through level 5 exponentially too. So either way though, well, assuming of course if you know exactly what to do for this point there, Mighty. And of course you need to be careful of those devastating Boomerang Bros because they like to able to actually throw you off. So anyway, so yeah, in terms of everything else we can probably discuss upon, I'm pretty sure that Sonic has already mentioned about this, or perhaps even maybe that Maxi has already mentioned about this, is that, well, obviously the Super Mario Bros. Movie is receiving the PG-rated movie. So, well, in terms of according to the forms of BBFC, you know, British Broadcasting Film classification, that basically does about the fact that they did somehow say PG stands for mild violence / threat. So either way though, I honestly don't mind about it, especially because, you know, we're very excited about that film, especially because, you know, we really cannot wait to see how that film's gonna turn out until, you know, 2 weeks time. So either way, oh, looks like something tells me you're not gonna use that hammer, aren't you? Oh, wait a second, because you're gonna use that until the next world coming up, aren't you? Well, yes, that's exactly how I was gonna be thinking about it anyway, so... Oh, yeah, another thing I would like to say is that speaking of Netflix, that, I think it might seems to be true, but I think I'm also say this anyway, that, apparently though, there's gonna be more covers for My Little Pony Tell Your Tale, it's gonna be on Netflix on, March 27th, so that's roughly about 6 days time now. Well, despite the fact that one thing I should probably expect to able to mention about this is that, well, as far as what Maxi and Sonic the Hedgehog have both already mentioned about this already, with the forms of Piglet's Big Game and Sonic Origins as well, suffice to say, I don't think we can probably able to actually upload anything for, you know, Friday and Saturday and Sunday coming up, because obviously we'll be spending most of our time in a mini holiday break, just in case we can able to see the change of scenery for ourselves for our own time, and on top of all that stuff, though, just have some spare time with, you know, friends like, you know, me and, maybe potentially speaking though, that I think something tells me that Blue and Jewel did somehow mention to me about something the other day. That is about the fact that one of their kids, specifically 3 kids most likely, are also coming too. Oh, really? That'll be awesome. Yeah, which, kind of think about it, because relatively speaking though, that, well, I don't know about you, but we'll see what happens in due time, especially concerning about the fact that we would love to able to actually introduce them into our channel, but maybe at some point in, I don't know, Thursday or something, but we'll just see what happens in due time, don't you think, bro? Well, because I would like to able to see that's gonna be turned out to be for the sake of time, so... But yeah, for the most part for Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Super Nintendo version, not much else to talk about, aside from the fact that, well, obviously it plays exactly the same as the NES version, except with, you know, much more gorgeous visuals, because obviously with all that, you know, more background and all that stuff, but that's basically all there is to say. So either way though, it looks like something tells me that we've almost done with the forms of World 2 already, because I'm now already on to a pyramid level, so either way. And yeah, I apologize for that particular commentary. Gets a little bit off at this point today, but that's only mainly because my throat is almost gonna get croaked all of a sudden. So either way though, I'm still fine as it is, so don't you worry. So of course there was that Boomerang Bro that just somehow shows up as soon as I come out of the pipe as I go along, And, yeah, there's only one level left in, World 2. Even though, despite the fact there is technically that particular enemy that usually just moves for a moment ago, which, in order able to actually get to there, you need to able to actually utilize the hammer to break that particular rock, so...
Oh, darn, I was so close to able to get those 2 extra lives, but I think I did get that timing messed up.
And something tells me, I think this particular transformation is a bit identical to the NES version, except that, now it's more likely based off from the likes of Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA. In fact, kind of thinking about it, I believe whenever we get to, like, I don't know, World 4 and World 7, respectively, that we might as well able to come across into some King transformations in those worlds in particular that might felt a little bit more familiar when it comes to that familiar encounters we might as well come across into. But then again, we're not going to able to mention more about it right now, because obviously we're still on World 2 after all, so either way, now it's Mighty's turn again for the likes of the Airship Fortress levels. So of course, every time whenever you come across into a castle at the end of each world, basically, excuse me, is that basically every time when it does say help, 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 and then if you're entering one of the castles, then obviously you have to able to force to go into the actual Airship Fortress levels. So, and however though, if you do die in any of those Airship Fortress levels, despite the fact that they're all auto-scrolling levels by the way, that if you dare die in any of those Airship Fortress levels, basically though, the Airship Fortress will go into someplace elsewhere. So in some cases though, you need to go after it though, before God knows. So anyways, now it's time for you to take on, you know, Martin Cooper Jr. as far as I can tell from his visual standpoint, and you've already taken him down like no sweat. So, kind of thinking about it, because between both Worlds 1 and 2 are both very, very easy. So, although, whenever we get to the next world, which is World 3, this is where the difficulty might go a bit zigzaggy when it comes to, like, you know, difficulty and stuff like that. Which, again, I don't think I can probably mention about it for right now, because either way, I think for you, Mighty, you might as well able to receive a cloud, which that allows you to skip the level, so...
Yep, sure enough it was. Because you know we've already did the NES version of the game, didn't we?
Yep, exactly for surely. So, I suppose we should probably end things off at this point right here, so join us next time for more of Let's Play of Super Mario All-Stars in the Super Mario Bros. 3 game, is that we're going to be experiencing not only World 3, but possibly World 4 as well, so that might be a plenty of chances here, so we'll see you guys until on Thursday.
Later, dudes.